you can stream for us. We are going to record the meeting so that, okay, so that those
Recording in
that
progress.
are not able to join us today can watch this later. But welcome everybody to the SHRAB board. I think we'll be a little bit smaller group today, but I thought maybe real quick before the secretary goes, we need to do some introductions so we can make sure that everybody, we do have a new member and that those that are on the board can sort of virtually meet each other. So let me do this. I will call on people in order on my screen, and you can just say who you are. And if you want to add anything about what you do, that would be great. I'm Sarah Kuntz. I'm the State Archivist of North Carolina in Natural and Cultural Resources, and I see Adrian next.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all. I'm Adrian Burney, and I'm the Outreach Coordinator for the State Archives.
And I see Quinn next to her.
Good morning, everybody. Quinn Godwin, Associate Director of the American Indian Heritage Commission.
And I see the Darren Reed duo next on my screen.
Reed Wilson, Secretary of the best department on earth.
And Darren Waters, Deputy Secretary, and here with my boss.
Thank you. Karen?
Oh, hi, I'm Karen Feeney. I'm the Supervisor for the North Carolina Collection at the Forsyth County Public Library in Winston-Salem.
Okay. And Danny?
Hi, I'm Danny Sharella, an Outreach Archivist at the State Archives.
And Jan?
Hey, I'm Jan Davidson. I'm the historian at the Cape Fear Museum of History and Science in Wilmington.
And Kelly?
I'm Kelly Young. I am Sarah's administrative assistant.
And Melissa?
Hi, I'm Melissa Lovell. I'm with the North Carolina Attorney General's office. I'm currently broadcasting live from Denver, Colorado, where I'm attending a tobacco conference, actually. So I'm just glad to be here and glad to be a part of the group.
Thanks, Melissa. Welcome. And Erin?
Hi, I'm Erin Larimore. I'm the University Archivist and Professor at UNC Greensboro.
And Matt is with us from our technology team. And we do have a couple members that are missing today, including Catherine Cutchell from the PAC Library. We do understand that the PAC Library is fine and they have power, but I'm sure she's got plenty of other things to do besides the SHRAB meeting. And Lynn Juilliard and Sharon Davis, our two registers of deeds on the call, are also not here today, as well as Trey Adcock, who's a professor at UNC Asheville. So he's out today as well. So welcome everybody. And I think let's have Reed give us his comments from the confines of Darren's office.
Okay. So Karen, did we meet when I visited your fine library in Winston-Salem?
I think we did.
I thought we did. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
What a wonderful place. Whew. If you haven't been, you guys should go.
We're very lucky. We are very lucky.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good to be with you. Thanks for being here, not only today, but also for all the work you do with this board in between the meetings. What you're doing about historical records is really important as we try as a department to tell a more comprehensive and diverse history of the people and the events that have shaped our state. I just want to start for a little bit, taking our thoughts out west to the mountains. We've all seen the videos, we've all seen the photos. It's simply just catastrophic in so many places. So many counties are affected. I think we're up to 27 now that have the federal emergency disaster declaration. And you've probably seen that Governor Cooper is every day going to different communities to witness the devastation and talk to people. I was just looking at a video from yesterday. He was in Chimney Rock and Lake Lure, talking to folks, and those are not really recognizable anymore. But he also, sensed the sadness in people's eyes, but also the determination to get back and try and rebuild, recover and rebuild as soon as possible. I am relieved and grateful that all of our department's employees who work west of I-77 are safe and accounted for. I don't know what their living situation is. I'm sure some of them, their homes and families were affected, but they are okay. We have a lot of damage at our 18 sites west of I-77. I don't think it's catastrophic damage. The office building at Mountain Gateway Museum, the water pushed that building off its foundation and down the lawn a little bit. So they can't use that. The roof on the recently renovated restaurant on Mount Mitchell, part of that ripped off. It had only taken 4 years to renovate it. Fixable, I think. Trees down everywhere, roads out, probably in a lot of our parks. Our parks staff have not really been able to get in to evaluate the parks. One, because there's so many trees down, but more important than that, we've had about 50 of our state parks employees deployed to help with rescue, recovery, getting supplies to people, going up the mountain road in the all-terrain vehicle to take medicine to people or bring people down to get food. It's been quite an effort, and it really, I've talked to some mayors, 3 mayors out in the West, and they have just been overwhelmed with the response and feel like they're in a better place today than they thought they would be, given the storm and the damage. But there's still going to be months and years to go to fully recover and rebuild. And of course, you all are aware of our Cultural Resources Emergency Support Team, CREST, which we're poised to, deploy people to help local communities with their records, historic preservation, to provide advice and assistance. And there will probably be a lot of demand for that. So I know our folks are eager to be of assistance to the people out there. I know you're going to hear from our good buddy Quinn Godwin today about the American Indian Heritage Commission. I am excited that in just a few days, I'll be with the Waccamaw Siouan tribe to unveil another one of our highway historical markers that recognize American Indian tribes in the state. I've been to 2 or 3 of those already, and they are just powerful emotional events where the community gathers together and feel like, you know what? We're being recognized. This is a permanent marker. It's not going anywhere. And people are going to learn about the history of our tribe because you can go to the website and learn, which is just great. I know you're going to hear a lot from him, and I just encourage you to continue to collaborate with his commission and with the African American Heritage Commission programming areas of focus. They are 2 really important divisions in this department. I also want to thank you for collaborating with public libraries. Which just reminds me, out west in the mountains, almost all of the public libraries are open again. Almost all, not all, but that's better than we thought would be the case at this point. But thank you all for collaborating with them on development of printed and online resources for local libraries that are involved in archives and records preservation. It's great to see different parts of this department and the institutions that we assist around the state working together. So I appreciate that. There is so much going on in this department with records and history. I think we're all excited about America 250. Both in terms of educating people about the colonial and revolutionary period, but then the 250 years afterwards as we continue to try and figure out when are we us and who are we? And that's why I think it's so important that our department is trying to tell a more comprehensive and diverse and inclusive history of the state. The American Indian tribal highway historical markers are just one example of how we are trying to tell a more complete story. People, events, there's more than one perspective, and the more perspectives we can provide so that people understand the full picture of somebody or something that happened, I think the better off we'll all be. And, you know, we are trying through our educational efforts with schools and children to make sure that our content is getting into schools as much as possible, so that those kids understand our shared history and can hopefully, as they grow up, work together to build a brighter future for everyone. And I want to talk for a second about our Learning Happens Here initiative, which is a huge educational focus. We've been doing, I think you all know this, we've been doing educational work here forever. But I think a lot of people think of us as the field trip people, and we are the field trip people. Gladly embrace that label. We host great field trips all over the state, the best, but we do so much more than that. We also send our people to the schools. You know, not too long ago, I went to Nightdale to a 4th grade class, and people from one of the aquariums had come up with safe, adorable animals. And, you know, the kids were transfixed for an hour. You know, they could barely sit still when a question was asked, and, you know, they all wanted to answer it. And so we have people who go to schools, and it's a great thing. We also do teacher development, teacher training, professional development. In fact, I think this Thursday, we're going to have 250 teachers at the Art Museum to sort of enrich what they do in the classroom in terms of the arts. And we have, I believe now, more than 1,500 different pieces of educational content that teachers can draw down. It's obviously all consistent with state standards. Otherwise, we wouldn't put it up there because they couldn't use it. But we have hired someone named Christy Norris, who used to be over at UNC Public Humanities, Carolina K-12, who is amazing. She seems to know every teacher in the state. I exaggerate, but she really is connecting our educational resources to teachers K through 12. And I think we're going to see a lot more classrooms around the state with information being shared about our state's history, but also our science, also our arts and culture. And so we're going to continue to push our educational content out through our Learning Happens Here initiative to schools across the state. So that's what's going on. It's very exciting times. We have so much going on in terms of updating, and I should have mentioned this a second ago, but updating a lot of our historic sites, history museums, parks that have a big historical element, focusing first on sites that have not been updated in a long time. We're calling this our PUSH project, Priority Updates to State History. And we've done a deep dive on these sites, and in the coming months, those places will be transformed, and we'll be telling more stories in a more interactive and technologically interesting way, and just really excited about that. Examples include Town Creek Indian Mound, Fort Macon State Park, Museum of the Albemarle, Bennett Place Historic Site, Bentonville Battlefield Historic Site. We're going to get to Tryon Palace. The whole idea of this is to, when people experience those places, especially in person, but also online, they're just going to get a much more interesting, up-to-date, fuller recounting of the history of that place. So, you know, we got a lot going on here. It's all good. I know you have an agenda you need to get, so I'm going to click off. Actually, I'm not going to click off. I'm just going to leave Darren alone. But I just want to close by expressing my appreciation to all of you for the work you put into the SHRAB board. Really appreciate that. And I hope you have a great meeting. Take care. Darren, your desk is back to you.
Thank you. And I'll just add, this is a little out of order on the agenda, but I'll add an update in terms of the Western response. So much of what we do, both in public records work and Adrian leading CREST, is rely on our networks to tell us things. So, I mean, I've always appreciated being told 3 times that there's a problem someplace rather than never. So those of you with networks and museums, libraries, archives, if you hear anything, please let us know. We are working all of our friends and relying heavily on Jeff Futch in the Western office to kind of be the coordinator. But if you know of damage or potential damage to cultural heritage assets, public records, community college libraries or anything like that, let us know, because we're, like I said, I'd rather hear about it a couple of times than not at all. So we do rely on working all of our assets. And we were having a meeting yesterday of our folks that are kind of tracking this and keeping up with requests. And I think our challenge this time has been, we've never had communications down so long. You know, Florence was a bad storm and damaged a lot of places, but communications were back up within a shorter period of time. And this has been really, really challenging. And I know it's even much more magnified for people out west, but so we're kind of relying on everybody to give us updates, but just wanted to add that while I was thinking about it. And if you don't mind, Darren, before you say anything, I'm going to see if we have an approval. Did anybody have any edits or changes to the minutes from the February 13th meeting? Okay, is there a motion to approve them?
I'll motion to approve them, Sarah.
Thank you, Erin.
Erin.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think since we're online in a virtual meeting, I need to call on the members to you can just say yes or no for a vote. Darren,
Yes.
Erin,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Jan,
Yes.
Melissa.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. And we have so many people with rhyming names here. I think we talked about that last time.
Hey,
Darren,
Sarah.
Karen, Erin.
Sarah, Sharon Davis has joined us.
Oh,
too.
I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Sharon, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. So Sharon Davis has joined us. Do you want to say hello, Sharon, and tell everybody what you do in your day job?
Oh, so I'm Sharon Davis. I'm the Register of Deeds for Durham County. Responsible for maintaining records on the local level, birth, death, marriages, death, and real estate records. But that's my day job.
Thanks, Sharon. I don't know if you have any, do you have an approval for the minutes from February 13th meeting?
Approve.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Darren, do you have anything you'd like to share with the group?
No, other than to say hello and to thank you
Okay.
all for your work and for serving on this advisory board. That's it. You heard from the secretary. He's giving you a complete rundown of everything that's going on in the department. So there's nothing I can really add to that. But again, just thank you all for being here and for your service on this board. So Sarah, I'll pass
Okay.
it over to you. And Sarah, I just want to alert you. I leave a little early.
Okay.
I just want you and I didn't get a chance to talk about that early, but I've got to make it to another
Okay,
lunch meeting.
sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, well, just a couple updates from me before we get into the rest of the agenda. Just a couple brief things just for your awareness that's going on across the division. In our records, government records section, in addition to doing a lot of tracking now and trying to get in touch with county and local and municipal officials. They've been hard at work updating our functional schedule for state agency records. That's undergoing a major overhaul, and that will be ready for agencies to sign that later on this year. And they've been just busting out records management training, both in person and virtually. The first 6 months of the year, they reached 2,231 people in records management training. And I just got September's report. They saw another 700 plus in September. So they're really going strong on records management training. We have been doing some internal preservation work here, kind of working on a couple of our older collections that were processed in the 40s and 50s and in really old boxes and in really bad shape. And we're reprocessing them and trying to get better descriptions on them. And that's been a kind of a joint effort as we all contribute a little bit of time to that. And it is resulting in some good stuff to Secretary Wilson's point about elevating new stories and the reprocessing of the really old treasurer and controller's papers. They found a whole series of records that were very underdescribed, and they included information on enslaved people who were working on things like building the Capitol and other stuff like that. So we're really able to contribute to other ongoing research projects like the state Capitol staff and trying to identify everyone that helped build the Capitol by doing better descriptions of these materials. So that's been a great project. Secretary Wilson mentioned CREST, in addition to Adrian trying to make sure we have a rundown and adding to our spreadsheet of cultural heritage institutions we've confirmed have no damage or may have damage. She's also had since our last meeting, done a disaster response workshop in Greenville, North Carolina, and had our annual summit and training of the CREST members. So that was always timely to do that in August before peak hurricane season hits. And she's preparing to figure out when it's safe to go into the West to help with damage out there. We've got a couple things on our outreach calendar that may be of interest to you. The State Archives, State Library, and Friends of the Archives are hosting a family history fair on October 26th. And that will be about foodways. That'll be here in our building. That's free. That should be a great program. And then Adrian's been working with the Friends of the Archives for their annual meeting. And this year we're going to have a longer program, and that is called From Edenton to Congress. And it's featuring stories of women who were politically active. So starting with the Edenton Tea Party, because that's 250 years ago this month. And that's really the first documented time that we see a all-female led kind of political effort in the colonies, and on to more current information about women in political activism in North Carolina. So that will be November 1st, and we can share the registration information for that. It'll be hybrid, so you can come in here or you could watch it virtually if that's of interest. And then just kind of speaking of outreach, I think our team has done a great job in the last several months in trying to be very deliberate on finding opportunities for outreach that are different than what we've done in the past, including Adrian worked with a El Centro summer camp in Durham to do an activity for kids about preserving your family history, including one day she had many, many shoe boxes outside her office for little kits about preserving your family history. So that's an example of something that we're working on to try to reach different audiences than we have in the past, both youth and the Hispanic community. So that was great. And also related to that, we are in the final planning stages of an all division staff cultural competency training with the Society of American Archivists, big trainer on that topic, Helen Wong Smith, who is from the University of Hawaii, and she's really great. So she's actually going to be in person and do an all-day training with us. So we're excited about that. And my last thing was about the expansion of the oral history program, but I'm going to let Quinn talk about that. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Quinn Godwin, who's our Deputy Director for the American Indian Heritage Commission. And at the request of the board, they'd like some more information on activities and projects of the commission. So I asked him to join us today. So take it away, Quinn.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for the invite to come here. I'm really proud to represent the commission. Many of you probably know we're really young. The staff was hired just a little over 2 years ago, but we were created by the 2021 State Budget Act as a permanent office in DNCR. And our mission is to advise and assist the Secretary of Natural and Cultural Resources in the preservation, interpretation, and promotion of American Indian history, arts, customs, and culture. And we represent the 8 tribes of North Carolina, and I'll go ahead and list them. Many of you probably already know: Coharie, Eastern Band Cherokee Indians, Halawa-Saponi, Lumbee, Meherrin, Occaneechi Band of Saponi Nation, Saponi, Waccamaw-Siouan. And we also represent 4 urban Indian organizations: Cumberland County Association for Indian People, Guilford Native American Association, Metrolina Native American Association, and here in the Triangle Native American Society. So in those 2 years, the past 2 years, we worked hard to literally build this commission from the ground up. I mean, for everything from the logo to the website, everything is brand new. And it wasn't like we were starting from scratch. Obviously, there were relationships formed by this department, divisions in this department with several tribal communities. And of course, we wanted to just nurture those and continue to maintain those connections, but also be a source for the department to come in and advise anytime we're requested on whatever instance might pop up with American Indian artifacts, histories, archives, anything. So I will drop our website so you can kind of peruse this while we're talking. But there are 2 things that I really like about the commission from the start. The biggest thing is our placement in this department. I mean, everybody knows, Secretary Wilson's got the whole thing about North Carolina A to Z, but we have so many divisions that we as a commission can tap into, and that's really important because it grants us a constant seat at the table. You know, I feel like I came out of the governor's office. I was in the Office of Public Engagement for 4 years, and I had the opportunity to work with diverse communities around the state, primarily my own. And if I didn't mention this, I'm a member of the Lumbee tribe, and I was born and raised in Pembroke, North Carolina, down in Robeson County. But I could tell there were a lot of people, especially when we would do cross-agency, you know, engagement sessions and meetings, that there were people in the wings that really wanted to help spread information about American Indians in North Carolina, about our history and our culture. And it seemed like things were a bit siloed. So when our commission was created, the hope was to take all of those dots and connect them and be an ever-present force in the department to help with archives, with archaeology, with anything like that. And the other thing I really like about our commission is our composition of representatives. Many of you know the Commission of Indian Affairs over in the Department of Administration. They've been around for about 54 years at this point, and they handle really quality of life issues and advocacy issues. They for the state recognition program. So we have 7 state recognized tribes in North Carolina, and you can count the Eastern Band, but the thing about the Eastern Band is they enjoy full federal recognition. So they primarily get resources from the federal government in the form of, you know, be anything from medical funding for hospitals. They have their own hospitals, education, language revitalization, all this stuff. And that political designation has put our state tribes at a disadvantage over the decades. And I'll tell you one thing in particular with our state archives. When we first got into office here, we were looking around, and of course there were things about you know, the region of the mountains with Cherokee and old pictures and things like that. But it was really, you don't really have a source of information for the state tribes, and that's where we come in. And you know, we start out at the basics, because a lot of people, non-natives especially, they just don't think there are Indians left in North Carolina. So I mean, it's our job to really say, hey, there's almost 200,000 American Indians according to the census in the state, and we're the second largest population of American Indians by state, east of the Mississippi, behind New York. We used to be first. So it's really important not only to understand that there are Indians still left in the state, but there are distinct cultures and tribes, nations, if you will, because, you know, even if a tribe is tribes are geographically close to one another, they still have distinctions in their culture, their history, everything. So that we're really here to highlight those distinctions. And the makeup is different from the Commission of Indian Affairs because that's based on population. So the largest tribe by population is my tribe, the Lumbee tribe. And when you do it like that, that's why they exclusively deal with politics in the legislature, because, you know, they, depending on how big the tribe is, they might have more representation. But here it's 1-to-1. So we really stress the equity of getting stories from all of the tribes and urban Indian organizations. We just did the historic highway marker installation ceremony for the Meherrin, and they're way up in Ahoskie in the northeast part of the state. So they don't get a lot of love where they are, just because they're so far out there. It's exactly 2 hours from the office here. But that was just a great opportunity to really highlight them. And as the secretary says, it's a big cultural event. They have their members show up in regalia. They have drummers there. They have drum songs, honor songs. And it's a great opportunity for our colleagues at BNCR to really be amongst American Indians and see what the distinct members are like in each tribe. And so it's really rewarding work for me, especially. I never thought I would end up in a position like this, but I'm really happy that I did. But in the time that we've had, the 2 short years, we've already started several major projects. We have sort of a standing involvement with the annual American Indian Heritage celebration in Raleigh, which is going to be November 23rd this year, and that'll be our 29th annual. So next year will be really big with the 30th. But as many of you know, the Museum of History shut down as of yesterday, I believe. So that's primarily where it's been over those years. So we're still going to be outside the museum that Saturday. So we'll be doing dancing and drumming outside, and the workshops and classrooms will take place actually in the Museum of Natural Science. So it's the same location. We're hoping to still get that Christmas parade traffic from downtown Raleigh, but next year we're not really sure where it might be, but we definitely want to keep it probably in the same area as much as we can. So that's kind of a standing thing. We meet monthly to coordinate that. As soon as it's over, we start talking about the next one. But one big program that we started immediately was with the Historic Highway Marker Office. And surprisingly, we found out, or at least I was surprised, that none of the state recognized tribes had markers, just explaining like who these people are, the history, their contributions to the state. So that, and while it was low hanging fruit, it was really a big deal for these tribes, because it's one more step to I would say legitimacy, but they're already legitimate, but it's so hard for people to really dive down into state tribes when they don't get a lot of recognition, like the members of federally recognized tribes. I think there's like 580 on the federally recognized list now. So it's really important for the state tribes to see their legacy, the history of their people, kind of archived for the state in a way that it hasn't been before. And we had 2 additional markers for Bowie Mound, which is an earthen mound like Town Creek Indian Mound in Robeson County. Robeson County is actually peppered with mounds, and that information is just coming out now. There's a lot of archaeology that's been done down there, and a lot of our state tribes would like to see more archaeology in the eastern part of the state, again, to bolster what they already know about themselves and their sustained history. So we have that marker program. We're going to start doing more of people, places, and things next year. This coming Saturday, as Secretary stated, is the last one of this series. So we put in, this will be the 9th one this year, and it's with the Waccamaw. So that's going to be a great ceremony. That's a wonderful tribe. And they have a wonderful commissioner, J.D. Moore. He's actually a supervisor at the nuclear power plant and I think it's in Sanford down US 1, but he's just one. We just have so many cultural practitioners, language experts, just regular business people, but also the curator of the Museum of the Southeast American Indian, Nancy Strickland Chavis, who curated the Museum of Art's exhibition, contemporary native art exhibition earlier in the year. She's been a commissioner the whole time. So just that brain trust allows us to really tap into the important stories, and they act as an advisory board on who we should interview for oral histories, things like that. So that it's a really great commission board. And we just secured 2 grants. So I'll start with one for the Pomeroy Foundation. One thing that we've really highlighted over the past 2 years is the history of American Indian schools in North Carolina. And starting in the 1880s, you actually have the legislature, the General Assembly, providing a separate school, aside from the white schools and the black schools, and segregation for what they called Croatan Indians, which started in Robeson County. And that was really a catch-all phrase for said Waccamaw, the Coharie, the Lumbee, and it was all based on, I won't get into it, but Hamilton McMillan was a legislator from Robeson County, and he came up with this idea that the Lumbee were descendants of the lost colony and friendly Indian tribes. So Croatan was on the tree when Sir Walter Raleigh came back and everything. So they kind of made that the linchpin to provide schools, separate schools, other schools, if you will, for Indians, again, starting in Robeson County, and then it filtered out all the way to the Hiawassee Pony and the Meherrin. So that's a history that we want to create a North Carolina Indian Schools Trail for. So we've been in talks with the Pomeroy Foundation, and they're doing the Civil Rights Trail for the African American Heritage Commission. And we have been approved for 40 markers. There were way more Indian schools than that. So we're going to have to work with each tribe to highlight the important ones that they want to see recognized, but it'll have its own logo. The signs allow for a bit more text than the highway markers. So that's something we want to really start on at the end of this year and going into the next year, and really see those markers start to come up next year. So that'll be the 2 to 3 year project. But the big grant that we just got, and the one that Sarah was alluding to, is the oral history grant. And it's an expansion of our program that we already had in place. And it's from the National Archives. So basically, we've partnered with Sarah's oral history team over the past 2 years. Danny used to be a member of that team, but it's led by John Horan and Annabeth, and they've had several good interns over the past 2 years, but this group is phenomenal. I mean, John is the leader. He has a way of talking to people that's really impressive. And he gets a lot of good response from our tribal members, because we always want to, at least one of us, Director Curry Bird or I, will go out with the oral history team, just so we maintain a level of comfort. Because most of these occur in people's houses. So if you have like a non-native coming in, that might be a little, so we try to be there for each one. And this grant will actually allow us to hire a third staff member. It's just been two of us, Curry and I, for the past 2 years, but a dedicated person to schedule, organize, and actually go out with the oral history team and record these oral histories. So with us and the oral history unit alone, we've done about 24 over the past 2 years. So starting at the end of this year and going forward, all of those will be towards the oral history grant that we received from the National Archives. So I'm really excited about that, and the potential of what that could turn into. I mentioned earlier, there's just a lack of information for each individual state tribe in the archives, and we're working to change that. Eventually, we want to get to historical documents, scanning those in for the tribes. I know we had our commission meeting on Friday, and our Saponi representative, Kara Stewart, was talking about America 250, and they have some pension papers from way back that they just found, and they want to add to the state archives. So that's just a snapshot overview of what we've been involved in. We're growing at pretty much an exponential rate, and I'm excited about that. So it's only up from here, and I look forward to continue helping our representatives, our commissioners, to really get their stories out there for these tribes. So
Thanks, Quinn. Are there questions from the group or anything
Yeah,
you want to ask while we've got them?
and one thing I will add is last year we started, we followed, a lot of what we do follows the African American Heritage Commission, but they've been doing a toolkit for their Heritage Month in February, Black History Month. So we started one last year, and I'm currently working on revamping that, and it'll be out in a week or two. But a lot of people find that helpful because it's summaries on our tribes, of course, the commission, what our projects are, but just it's a global resource depot for everything American Indian related to the state. So you'll be seeing that soon.
Yeah, those are great resources. So we look forward to yours. Questions from anybody? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question if you want to ask while we've got him.
So while we have Quinn, I want to ask you about our current grant from the National Archives and HPRC, which is sharing community archiving resources through public libraries.
Mhm.
And part of that grant, we had scoped out having a few regional convenings, and we really want to work with you all and the African American Historical Commission, Heritage Commission, to identify what locations, like maybe a public library that regionally could draw people from the communities and be a help to several public library staffs in a region.
That'd be great. And we can, anything you want us to do, we'll work with our commissioners. And I think, Kara Stewart, again, from the Saponi, our commissioner, she's got like some kind of tribal archives program that she's, started up, and, she was going to present on it on Friday, but, we were going to shift it to January, our next meeting. But, that's one thing. I think you might be plugged in with her, but if not, I definitely want to.
I've been, because she's come here to get scans of things from our collections. And I think she got a grant to do that, to
Yeah.
make like a digital resource. So she's been at that for a couple of years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to identify materials and kind of, like you say, digitize them, aggregate them, for access. So.
And we're also right on time because we were formed right before the whole America 250 thing. So it's a great opportunity for us to kind of bridge that gap between our historical, more ancient tribes and the contemporary tribal governments, because all of your tribal governments reformed in the 20th century as a way to get some of that culture back that they lost through warfare, disease, assimilation, all of that. And that's really, this is kind of a point I like to make to people. When you have tribes on the Eastern Seaboard that were the point of first contact with people from the old world, and they're the ones that lose everything first. So of course, we've heard that 95% of the indigenous population was wiped out within 100 years just due to disease. They wouldn't have defenses against. So, you know, colonial encroachment, forced assimilation, warfare, all of these things just kept taking the history away from the tribe. So it's really important for us to help bridge that gap between those older, more traditional tribes and our tribal governments. It's the same people.
Can I ask about access to the oral histories that you're doing, and plan for and what your plans are in order to make it as geographically diverse as possible? I mean, you know, it's like you said that when you were talking that the Lumbee is the biggest tribe. So, you know, are you planning on choosing your oral history subjects but to try and create the broadest representation or the most reflective of the current demographics, or, you know, kind of how are you thinking about how to do this, and how do we get access to the end results?
So we're posting them in two places on our side. I know there's a repository with state archives for oral histories, but one is our commission YouTube page, and I'll post a link to this. What the oral history unit is doing is we're taking video and audio, so they're each about 2 hours. So and the easiest part is to record it. So then you have to go back and, like Danny knows about this, transcripts of every word, you know, keywords, chapters, all of that metadata comes in. So we're posting the majority of them to our YouTube page first, if we don't have the transcripts, and when we have everything, we transfer them over to our website. So let me.
While he's looking for that, they also live in Internet Archives. That's
Yes.
where we post a lot of our stuff.
So here's our YouTube page. And then they're also on our projects. Yep, on our website.
And I think y'all have been pretty deliberate about being diverse geographically and tribal
Yes.
representation too.
As far as the equity between representation, because we really do make an effort to go around and not necessarily do 5 Lumbee people at one time. We try to go around and do one each, but we work with our commissioners to get the names of individuals. What we've primarily been focused on, well, basically two things: high priority elders that are, sick in some way, or that we don't know how much longer they'll be with us. Those are the ones we focused on first, and then the other ones have been kind of focused around Indian schools. So we had two oral histories from Juanita Caldwell and Huey Maynor, and they're members of the Coharie tribe, but they were based in Harnett County, and they were instrumental in integrating Dunn High School. And they actually had sit-ins. There were protests almost every day for a while. A bus was blown up, a school bus that was transporting the Indian kids out of the town where they lived to go to East Carolina Indian School, which was in Coharie territory in Sampson County. So they, having to travel over an hour one way just to get to school when they could just as easily go to high school and done. That's a really important story around civil rights that a lot of people don't know in the state. So we focused on our Indian schools first, and now we're kind of branching out into other subjects.
Thank you. Yeah, we were just so we're working with the Wakamasuan tribe here a little bit, and there's somebody was talking about people dying and wanting to maintain those elder stories, and so I was just kind of wondering how you were doing it. So appreciate it.
That, like everybody else, every other community, COVID just really, it took out large swaths of elders and other people. That was really hard. So our director, especially Curry Bird, was insistent on getting some of our elders that are not necessarily in good health. But that's been really rewarding because I can't compliment the oral history unit team anymore because it's crazy how you get in there and the people, the subjects, the interviewees are like, I don't know if I can go 2 hours, what if I have to use the restroom or something, or they seem kind of apprehensive. By the end of it, stuff has come into their mind that they haven't thought about in decades, and really hard stories that they haven't been able to share before. For instance, if you look at it's two separate interviews with the same guy, but the Commission of Indian Affairs Executive Director Gregory Richardson, he's been in state government in Indian affairs for 50 years or so. But he was telling a story. He's a Vietnam vet, and when he got back from Vietnam, he flew into RDU in full uniform, and they wouldn't rent him a car because he was Indian. So he had to get somebody all the way from Hollister, call over there, no cell phones in the 70s, and get somebody to come pick him up because he was just discriminated against him, man. And I had never heard that. I don't know how many people he shared that with, but the emotion in his face that's why we do these oral histories.
And hopefully with being able to increase capacity, Jan, if you identify, people from your collaborations down there in the Wilmington area, let us know.
Mm-hmm. And part of that grant from National Archives is to train younger tribal members to go out and conduct probably smaller interviews, not necessarily 2 hours, but kind of get those generations together, the elders and the young people, and see what magic comes out of that.
Yeah, we're very much following the lead of what the tribe wants rather than making recommendations. So, but I'm sure all the folks that we know. So, but I just kind of was interested in how you're going about that.
They got some great people down there.
Yeah, no, Ashley Longboy is amazing, and Wendy Daniels is working with us on things as well, and they've both been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's awesome.
Well, thank you, Quinn. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to invite me. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
All righty. Okay. In terms of the next item agenda is current grant information. Some updates there. I'll let Adrian give us the highlights or any action steps that are needed here.
So we're in pretty good shape, definitely with TAP, Traveling Archivist Program. We're on track, and we've had all our visits, had most of our supply drop-offs. We may have a couple of follow-up supply drop-offs to schedule still, but we've served 6 organizations with in-person visits. will be opening up in January, another application period. So that's on track. For our programming initiative, this community archiving public libraries as a hub for those activities, we're making progress. We're not quite where I hoped we would be before this meeting because we're really close to having the tip sheets that we talked about being ready, but we weren't quite ready to share them. So I'm hoping in the next maybe week, maybe 2 weeks, we'll be able to email them out to all of you. But those are coming along. We've been working with a graphic designer to make those a little more visually engaging, but we have 9 tip sheets, and Karen Feeney was a big help with making suggestions and some revisions. And so, yeah, thanks for the read on that. And Catherine, who's not with us today, also helped with that. So Danny's been working on scheduling the webinar series. We've had a couple steps forward, and a step back, but we'll let her chime in on that.
Yeah, I'll keep it snappy for the sake of time, but as was alluded to, Catherine Cutshall, we had scheduled a webinar with her called Everyone is an Archivist, an Introduction to Personal Archiving, for October 22nd. But due to her location, we're expecting that to be delayed because we haven't heard from her and she's not here today. But also we have on the books Community Archiving in Action LSTA grant opportunities for November 13th at 10 a.m. And that'll be a panel discussion led by Catherine Prince from the Catherine Prince from the State Library, and she'll lead the panel with Kristen Merriman from the North Carolina Digital Heritage Center, Suzanne Moore from Wilkes County Public Library, and Molly Luby from Chapel Hill Public Library. So that's confirmed. And then once we kind of get those more on the ground and running, we are looking to scheduling something with Della Owens from Harnett County to talk about her experience with memory labs, but that'll be early next year.
And Karen and Catherine have another one. Once Catherine's back up
Oh, yes.
So in the new year, they're on the hook at some point. Yay. And yeah. So then also in 2025, we'll be working to schedule a couple of convenings. We're hoping to, in October of next year, do a presentation about these new resources for the Public Librarians Conference, North Carolina Public Librarians Conference. So Karen, if you get any information about deadlines to submit proposals, please share that because I'm probably not always looped in with that group. And I'm sure you are.
I'll be sure to do that.
Okay, any questions or comments on the current grant? And sounds like Adrian will have the tip sheets ready for review if you have a moment to look at them. They're designed to be just short little one page things, so they shouldn't take too long, but if you have input before they're finally released, that would be great. No questions? Okay. Well, the next part with board updates, we can kind of lump some of this together. I had hoped that you just, talking through, listening to Quinn and thinking about other things, we could have a short opportunity to think about. It always sort of feels like with program grants that you get into one, even if it's a 2-year cycle, and you need to be thinking about what comes next to write the next grant within about a year and a half. So we will be looking at a spring grant write for 2025, and wanted to have an opportunity to see if you all had any thoughts on potential needs. I know that things in the West may have upended that, but if there are something that Quinn said or something that you've run across that might fit, extend programming we've done in the past or add to it. Maybe we want to build on something with the library system. I just wanted to give a space for y'all to raise any thoughts that may have come to mind about where we may be needed to help with preservation and access to records. And if something occurs to you, later, you can always email us, but we can certainly draw on the strategic plan and think about that. But if you know of a community that has a need, I know several of you are plugged into different communities, whether it's public libraries or Aaron, you've helped out the Community College Archives Association. We've had, several of you are working also in the museum field. If there's things that come to mind, or like I said, something that Quinn spoke on that maybe could spark an idea that could be a collaboration with that commission, let us know, because we need to start towards the end of this year thinking about what might be some possible scope of a grant and making sure that the activities would fit into an NHPRC grant where they're primarily focused on, like I said, preservation of and access to archives. So that's the main key pieces to board programming grants. So let us know. I don't know that I have any specific advocacy updates from the federal government. They're, passed a very short continuing resolution. So they're not really taking up any serious conversations of the budget right yet. So I don't really have any news there. I don't know if anybody has anything locally. I think our advocacy is going to be mainly probably around preservation of materials that might have been damaged in the hurricane. But does anybody have any advocacy things they want to raise or concerns?
Sarah, can I just share with people a quick update about what needs we've heard of so far?
Sure, absolutely.
West. So our Mountain Gateway Museum, as you heard Reed Wilson mention, got hit pretty hard, but I don't think he said that the building that got knocked down was their collection storage. So we are looking to send some people. In fact, Jeff Futch from our Western office has already been working with the director there, and we'll probably do some kind of response to help them recover whatever they can from their archival and artifact collections there. And then Haywood County Historical and Genealogical Society also flooded where their archival collections are. So we're trying to hopefully get someone out in the next couple of days who's in Western North Carolina and can do a good needs assessment for us to start planning that response. And there's one other private school, the Asheville School, that has this kind of been around for a while. So it has some unique archives. They're looking at a mold situation is what the archivist thinks, but she hasn't been really allowed in the building since. So those are the needs we know of that we may be responding to.
Adrian, if there's anything, probably not in the early stages, but as we move along, where perhaps a crew of LIS students who are enthusiastic folk might be of assistance, let me know. I'm happy to lead the charge in herding volunteers. We did, when I was in grad school a million years ago, we did this when Houston flooded. One of the times, many times Houston flooded, we just took a van of students out to the medical library to clean up some of the slides that they had. So if you get to a point where you think that would be helpful, let me know and I'll see what I can do.
Okay, and your position is good too, because that saves a couple hours or an hour and a half travel time from Raleigh.
Well, and also UNCG's LIS program is virtual. And so they actually have students who are scattered all over the place.
Okay.
So they may actually have some students who are in the area or even closer than I am already. And then there may be some people at I've heard that app got off fairly easily, their library at least. So there may be some app folks who would want to join us too. And we may even have staff. In fact, we actually, I mean, y'all do too, I guess. We get the volunteer leave every year. And so I've actually had some folks who've already asked if we've heard of opportunities for volunteering in the mountains with archive stuff where they would use their volunteer leave to go. So just shoot me an email and let me know if there's anything we can do to help. And even if I can't personally do anything, I'm happy to spread the word and do some herding.
All right. Well, thanks. We kind of have to wait for water. That's a big issue right now for response. But yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you, Erin.
Sounds good.
And I know at least in Hurricane Florence, they did create a special pot of like a little bit extra service leave. You had to ask for it. So I haven't heard, I mean, we're early days, but that might be something they do again this time, to your point about extending that community service leave. But yeah, we're waiting for, like in the case of Haywood County, we were just talking today, like we got to make sure that we're not impeding any life safety efforts, which we're still very much in that emergency response phase before we get to recovery. So
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking it probably won't even be until
yeah,
November or even later. But if in the planning,
yeah,
be a point in the future for that, the sooner we could herd people, the better
okay,
probably. But
that's great.
yeah, no, I think everyone understands that. They just, I mean, like the rest of us, feel kind of helpless and want to do whatever they can whenever
Right.
they can. So
Right.
just let us know if there's anything we can do.
We appreciate that. We certainly will. Okay.
I think as
Um,
Florence survivors down here too, that if there is expertise or people that we can help, we weren't allowed in our building for a couple of weeks. So, it's not a 3-month effort. It's a
yeah.
years long effort to recover. And this is clearly like awful. So I think, there are a lot of folks in the museum community as well who would want to step up. And I know that they're a part of Crest. So Adrian probably has all those people already, but just want to say that out loud that,
Yeah.
I know at least a couple of people here have had a lot of disaster experience and would be, happy to help the state.
Thank you. Yeah, that's true. And there might be some remote assistance that can be offered in the interim. But yeah, and from a public record standpoint, we were also talking about that yesterday. We've had plenty of records get damaged by hurricanes down east and floodwaters. That's why we cited our new or relatively new essential records archivist in Newburgh, because we thought that's the area that she's always going to have to deal with. And she spent the last 2 weeks, working the West. And that's a new space to her. But for this time, we're also facing the possibility of things being gone. So like not necessarily recovery, but maybe gone. And that's a different scenario than we've had in the past. We've had a lot of recovery, a lot of really damaged records, but so we'll deal with that when we get there. Okay. Just
sorry,
oh,
Sarah. I was also going to mention for those who don't already know, and I know you know this, Sarah,
yeah.
but SAA has the National Disaster Recovery Fund for archives. So for anybody, and they define disaster broadly. So but it's $5,000. You don't have to be an SAA member. No one at your organization has to be an SAA member as long as it's archival records. And I will say the last I heard, they actually have a pretty well-seated fund to deal with. And so they're prepared to receive a lot of applications in the coming years. And so, like I said, they're open for museums, libraries, public libraries, universities, community organizations. Anybody who has archives can apply for that for up to $5,000 from SAA.
Yes, thank you. And we've been sharing that information to make sure that people knew that. And also we're, in touch with the Heritage Emergency National Task Force so that, feeding information up. So as we're hearing things that may be beyond our scope of Crest or something like that, we're poised to report that. And I expect in the next maybe week or so, they'll start scaling up the state's recovery task force, which is different than the response group. So hopefully we will hear more about that when they're ready. But like I said, still very much in active response mode. So, and now looks like things are headed to be bad in Florida. So that's another whole national recovery issue that will be underway, I'm sure. Okay. 2 other things real quick, and then unless there's anything else, we can wrap it up. Just a couple America 250 updates just for y'all's information. The team is fully staffed. We have 4 staff members. 3 of them are temporary, or 4 of them are temporary, but we're fully staffed for getting work on things. We had our first round of local grants that went out to counties and to cultural heritage organizations that wanted to do some commemoration programming. That grant pot was $2.1 million total. We had the second round open. We haven't officially announced yet, but I expect we will either delay or try to ask the General Assembly to extend that money, because there's not a lot of point in having money for county committees if the counties are thinking about other things and not ready. So we're going to kind of regroup on that as well. And I don't want a disaster in the West to mean that only people in the East apply for the grants and it's all skewed. So we're trying to figure out the best way forward with that. But that local grant program has been very popular in the first round and has funded some great things to come for America 250. The first of our children's book series is out, and that's going to be launched for the Edenton Tea Party. It's called Within Our Power. That we're not used to having book sale discussions in our department because our books tend to be fairly niche topics. But this one, we partner with UNC Press to do our book distribution, and the guy who manages our account called us like within the month to just be so excited because they've already sold like 800 copies in a month of the book. So, and we're getting national attention for it. There's reviews and things that are coming out that say it's a lovely book. So that'll be a great resource. We're going to continue to add to that so that there's to Secretary Wilson's point, there's a lot of diverse stories, news stories, and now aimed at children for America 250. So we're excited about that. And we will be launching our second round of Teachers Freedom Fellows in 2025. Those are teachers that are a cohort that come and spend a lot of time with the department and go on field trips and support each other on learning activities. It's a great group, the first round, and they all then have to do an activity related to America 250 with education. So if you know some teachers, have them watch our website for the next round of applications, which I hope will open fairly soon. And then tomorrow I'm having a meeting, another exciting program that we dreamed up by ripping off from another state. We're hoping to have a state poem commissioned for the commemoration. But if those of you that know Jackie Shelton Green, who's our state poet laureate, she's very dynamic, and she's actually done, I know she's done in Wilmington, some community poem building events around a particular topic. So we're in discussions with her about what would this look like for a statewide rollout of like community participation in creating a poem about America 250 and possibly around concepts of freedom or things like that. So more to come on that, but I'm excited to move into the arts and maybe get that going. So that's a little bit from America 250. And then the last thing I want to make sure we had on our mind while we're all together. Typically we've met in February and October. And so I was thinking about the 2025 schedule. If that still works for people, that would be February 11th and October 14th. Any conflicts with that or comments on that? That works. We can keep that as our schedule for 2025. Okay, I will take an absence of comments as consent. Anything else that anyone wants to announce to the group or share before we close? I know we're running a little over today, but I appreciate your time. Anything else? All right. I appreciate it. I appreciate you spending a little bit of extra time with us. And if you have any questions, definitely if you have any ideas for a need for a preservation programming grant or access, something that comes to mind after this, please follow up with us because we're going to be mulling that over and maybe sharing some information in email with everybody. All right. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
Thank you.